sunny day for them, it really can change somebody else's whole disposition, their day, and their day it could be contagious.
My therapist told me, and every time I tell people, they are blown away because it blew me away. I'm in there because I'm talking about my ex-husband, and I'm just like, misery loves company, and he says, so does happiness. I was done. I was just like, okay, sir. You never think of, we use these trite sayings and these adages all the time. And not understanding that they contribute to negative mental spaces. To say misery loves company. He says, so does happiness.
Come on, cognitive behavioral therapy.
And let me tell you, like, it changed my whole perspective on how I looked at my friends, my family. Because even when I'm going through things, I try to be the light.
Yes.
Like, I try to be the one, because I have a kid who has gone off on me Monday. And they expect me to, the next day, they expect me to be angry.
Like, you live with that. Yesterday was yesterday.
Yesterday was yesterday. You were going through whatever you were going through. Now, I do tell them often, though. Now, I got to be honest with this part. I do tell them often. Don't take things out on people that care about you. You really have to watch that. That as many times as other people have tried to get you into trouble, I've never called your parent. I never write you up. I never send you down to the office. Because I know that space that you're in when you are angry and you want to say things that you probably wouldn't have said on a regular basis, like that's a part of the trauma that you're experiencing. But I do try to ask them. I was like, look, I said, I'm not from the streets per se, but I grew up around the streets. And you can't change up on people. Like, you really have to understand the people who have your back, the people who care enough about you gotta sometimes like be easy with them, because you never know how they can help you and assist you. And they already know, like, boy, you know, I'll give you all the world.
Yeah, that's what they say. All right. Thank you for sharing that. So my next question is talking about just the overall education system. And
you're gonna make me lose my job.
I know. Some people out there, you might think that we're just often too hard on the education system, but I think that we should be. And I'm also open to hearing why people think that we should have a little bit more empathy. But I think that when it comes to raising our children and bringing them into a space of potential success, future success, you can never want too much. I think that we should always be critical, or just at least thoughtful about how our systems are and how they need to be tweaked. We should always be assessing and reassessing the systems, especially when it comes to rearing people who are supposed to be our future. So I'm 35 years old, and I've been in education for most of my life at this point. And public schools to private schools to Ivy League institutions, and I've seen the varying faces of education. And it bothers me that the access that I had at certain levels of my education, I did not have it. So when I talk about that, I'm specifically talking about growing up in a poor neighborhood where the education system was public and limited with resources, limited with opportunities, but I had the biggest dreams then. And then getting into institutions later down in life where I really fought hard to get into, where these privileges were assumed, or they were just there. And I felt out of place. They were so close to me, but I still felt like they were far. I didn't know how to reach them, because this is not something that I was kind of accustomed to interfacing with. The fact that our education system is so bifurcated, it's just so dichotomous, it bothers me. I want you to talk to me about your experiences with the education system, your feeling around the education system, and how it may contribute to mental health problems.
I can definitely go there. So the education system is the indoctrination system. It is a space that we teach kids.
You better be an activist.
Listen,
you better.
It is a space where we teach kids that George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, John Madison, all these people were great people. Like, before you learn anything about Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, you have learned that all white men, straight Christian white men, are the greatest, because they somehow were able to sit down and pen a document that is still in a living, they call it a living constitution. So you get to this space where the humanity of white people matters more than your own as a person of color, BIPOC, we call them. Right? So the educational system, what it does is it continues to use antiquated ideologies to get kids to become workers, to get kids to become less of dreamers and more of a person who learns to do what they're being told to do, versus teaching them how to be independent creative or independent critical thinkers. That is important. The educational system, unfortunately, is still working in the way that it was designed to work. That notion of kids having to ask for permission, walking in lines, sitting in the cafeteria and rows, and very much so school to prison pipeline-ish. And so it has a magnanimous impact on people's mental health, because in a school, we're only concerned about the kids who are doing the work. We're only concerned about the kids who are doing what we ask. You can see this on a daily basis in the school. The kids who are answering the questions sit in the front. The kids who don't care that much are sitting in the back, and the teachers are placating to those ones who are sitting in the front. And so it's like, so if you keep telling that Sasha is smart, Jonathan is smart, Seth is smart, then what about Tamika in the back who's not paying you any attention? What is she? Like, by default, she must be...
Is she not here?
Right. And so even in math classes, I read this article about asking black kids to show their work in math class.
Oh, okay. I remember that.
It's a racist,
it's oppressive, right?
Ideology, because lots of black children can do math in their heads. And so they don't necessarily have to show you how they arrived at the answer. But so many kids, because I have a cousin who, you tell him, you say, what's 300 times 400? Or what's, that was too even. What's 300 times 378?
Right.
It takes him a minute, but he can do it.
Wow.
I've never been a math person.
Right.
But that whole notion that we are still wanting kids to sit down in a classroom, in a desk, with paper and pencil, or laptops or iPads, whatever they have these days. We still want them to sit down and do what we ask them to do, and anything outside of that is a problem.
Yeah.
Versus understanding that there may be some other underlying issues that disallow them to be able to just sit there and do what you ask. That has nothing to do with you as a teacher. Right. If the kid isn't paying any attention, but you should want to get to the bottom of that.
Right.
You should want to understand, like, is there something going on with your mental health?
Right.
Because more than likely it is.
Yeah. I want to touch on a few things because you said so many things that really resonated with me. But going back to show the work, it kind of falls into a narrative where there's only one way to do something.
One way to skin a cat.
There's one way to do something, and you in your youth, in your mind, your developing mind, you have no ability to think of any creative way that I don't already know as the authoritative figure here. So if you don't show me the work the way that I showed you how to show the work, then you cheated. You've done something wrong. You have cheated the system. And that's where the finger pointing and the criminal pointing. You become a criminal at that age.
Yes.
Because you have no ability. How dare you have an ability to think outside the box? So going back to what you were saying, how we really don't. There's no room for creativity. And when there's no room for creativity and you tell kids what to do, stand in line, sit there, raise your hand.
You know.
That is boxing to a young mind, to a mind that wants to explore, develop, and most of what they hear is don't do is stifling. And I don't know how a healthy mind can develop from that. A mind without, a mind that experiences, a mind without trauma, a mind without some type of onset of mental health issues. I mean, especially if you have a predisposition to mental health because of family issues or whatever in life that has occurred, this will flip that switch.
Yeah, you're pushing kids to the margins who are already there.
Yeah.
You're pushing them past the margins at this point. So the marginalization is twofold. And that in and of itself causes kids to not be able to connect with their spirituality, with their creativity.
Right.
So